You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, the only radio station of its kind dedicated to the green industry. Now you can even ask Alexa to tune you in when you're home.
For green industry news, this is The Turn. Live from the Turfs Up Radio studios in Louisville, Kentucky, with coverage across the country and across the street, also across the room. Welcome to The Turn, powered by Green Industry Pros. In the news, the National Association of Landscape Professionals is working hard for you, keeping you up to date through their Advocate program and Advocacy Contact team. From H2B Visas and your chances of obtaining migrant workers to lawmaking decisions that could affect your business as soon as this spring. Also, Adam Linneman asks, how well do you know your numbers? What does it look like to make a profit a priority in your business? Why are so many companies tuning into the Profit First podcast on Turfs Up Radio to learn more about this fresh new perspective? And Jay Worth guides us towards retaining quality employees year in and year out. He'll teach us some new tricks about how to be successful in staffing during the off-season. Those stories and more today on The Turn. Now for The Turn, here's Sarah Webb.
Hi, I'm Sarah Webb, editor of Green Industry Pros and host of Turfs Up Radio News. I'm here with Darren Gruner, founder and CEO of Turfs Up Radio. Darren, how's your new year starting off so far?
Oh my God, sick. I mean, yeah, we're sick. Everybody's sick. The whole country seems to have a cold or some type of something going around, right?
Yeah, it does seem like that. I had mine right before the holidays. I was a little bit sick, so thankfully starting off the new year a little bit better, but hopefully the rest of the year starts off better for you.
Hey, listen, it can only get good from here, right? If you're sick at the beginning of the year, it's not going to be like that for the rest of the year. Get it out of the way. Right. Get it out of the way.
Exactly. I actually started off the new year in Orlando for the WorkWave user conference. So that was really cool to be able to start the new year at an event, meeting with different landscape professionals. It was really cool. And, Orlando is a lot sunnier than Cleveland. So, that's always a good thing.
I don't know. Not these last couple of weeks. It's been kind of crazy, but I get you. Raining.
It's at least warmer, I should say.
There you go. Right. Warmer is the thing. Everybody says, we're coming down here. Darren, we're going to come down. I'm like, well, it's not really that warm. Well, it's a lot warmer than it is here. That's for sure. I'm
yeah.
Like, gotcha.
If I don't have to wear my winter parka, I'm happy about it.
Right. I don't even know what that is. A winter parka.
Just my giant winter coat.
I'm only kidding. I know what it is.
I was. So anyway, getting into it, we have a full slate of things to talk about to really help landscape professionals prepare their business for the coming year. Now is the time of year when people, especially business owners, really reflect on how the past year went and think about what they want to change for the upcoming year. It's really a great time for business owners to take stock of the past year. With that in mind, we wanted to do something to give landscape pros a few tools to help them prepare for the upcoming year. Before we jump into that, Darren, was there anything that you learned throughout 2023 and anything you're hoping to undertake in 2024?
I learned that I am more confused than ever with the softwares that are coming out. There's so many people that want to improve the way you do business, right? Everybody wants to. Mm-hmm. I get emails all the time, people that want to get on Turfs Up Radio because they realize there's not enough education out there. I'm like, what are you talking about? Everybody's trying to help. Everybody and their mother is trying to help. So, but I am more confused, and I think that, and I'm a contractor also, so I'm in touch with what contractors feel. We're just inundated with everybody trying to help. So where do we go? So that's how I came out of that, and I've been working on myself, trying to figure out how to just relieve the pressure, trying to figure out what's the simplest way to do business, and we'll continue to do that in my business.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it does seem like everyone, is always trying to find the most efficient ways to streamline everything. So that's great to hear.
We're finding that more people are really in tune. Like the young guys, they rely on it. Throwing too many pieces of software at these young guys starts to add up. It becomes really expensive, $30 here, $150 here, $1,000 here a month. It becomes like, oh my God, before I even get started, I'm spending so much money in just software. So I have to find out the right thing. So we'll find that, and we have some great supporters at Turfs Up Radio that have really pinned it down and made a lot of sense. And I know there's some other out there, but we'll get the answers for everybody.
Absolutely. And for me, just thinking back about 2023, I kind of reiterated the importance of events, going to trade shows like Equip Expo, and a lot of the events that NALP has throughout the year, just to really connect with our readers and our listeners and to continue to talk with them about what some of their challenges are and what their pain points are. So I'm really hoping in 2024 to continue that momentum. And, I'm also really excited to continue full steam ahead for this partnership between Turfs Up Radio and Green Industry Pros.
Before you go on, I have to say that's really the highlight. That was a highlight of my year, is joining together with you guys and really putting an effort together, knowing that we're like-minded professionals, we're like-minded businesses, we're really trying to do the same thing. We almost didn't want to go to Equip Expo last year. We almost just kind of said, because it's the people that go to Equip Expo don't go there for us. We're there to cover the industry, right? And we can cover it by doing interviews. That's what we do. We're radio. So we really didn't feel like we wanted to go. So we weren't going to go. I told Chuck we didn't need to get a booth. And they're great friends of ours, but we'll cover it and we'll still get the good information out. And they're like, okay, you sure? And then getting together with you guys kind of gave us a little spark. And boy, am I glad we went, not just because of the relationship. We love hanging out with you guys, but being able to just participate in watching these people go through and watching them just learn. They're learning and they're engaging with other manufacturers and other like-minded professionals just blew me away. I can't not go.
It really is so cool. Just the, seeing people in awe of, all the new products out there, but then also the insights that they get from each other. There's so many aha moments throughout the event that it's really cool to see. So first up, we talked to Adam Linneman, owner of Linneman Lawn Care and Landscaping, co-owner at The Green Executive, and host of the Profit First podcast on Turfs Up Radio. As a consultant who engages with many landscape pros around the country, he had a lot to say about one of the most important aspects of any business, knowing your numbers. So first, we asked Adam about the importance of knowing your numbers.
Knowing your numbers inside your landscaping business is crucial. The reason why is because you need to know simply what to charge in order to cover all your expenses and turn a healthy profit afterwards. So by knowing your numbers, you're able to turn profit in your business, and profit allows you to grow your business and to have a truly sustainable business.
Next, we asked Adam what landscape pros should do to prepare their business for 2024.
For 2024, landscape pros really should just set some time apart, especially now before the spring season hits, and set some time, whether it's half a day, a full day with your team, and do some planning. Start looking at ways that you can improve your marketing, look at ways how you can improve your efficiencies out in the field, and look at maybe any type of additional service offerings that you can add on into your business to help make more profit inside your business.
And finally, Adam weighs in on his methodology of Profit First and how this method can be applied to prepping for the new year.
Profit first implementation in a business is a little bit of a new way of thinking. And the traditional way is having your sales minus your profit equals your expenses. Well, in Profit First, we flip that formula and we say sales minus profit equals your expenses. And so it's really crucial to pay attention to what is most important to you in your business. If I were to ask you what is most important in your life, you would probably say my family or my wife or my kids, and you pay the most attention to that. Well, in a business, profit should be the most important thing. Profit first implementation can be applied and can help with the new year simply by making profit a habit in your business, not just a event, something that happens occasionally in your business. If you have profit, you're able to use that to pay your team members more, perhaps. You're able to save up for maybe a 3 or 6 month emergency fund in case we ever have a problem such as COVID again or something like that. Profit also allows a business to have long-term sustainable growth and to invest in things such as new equipment. So by implementing Profit First into the 2024 season is crucial for a business's success.
I'm Sarah Webb here with Darren Gruner. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Turn on Turfs Up Radio, powered by Green Industry Pros. We'll be right back.
Busy work burning you out? Kick it to the curb and do more of what you love. How? With Landscape Management Network to spend less time creating estimates, tracking crews, doing job costing, managing invoices and payroll, and more. FYI, the average LMN contractor spends 50% less time doing payroll, increases profits, and lands more jobs. Put an end to burnout. Visit golmn.com/turfsup. That's golmn.com/turfsup to get started.
You're listening to The Turn on Turfs Up Radio, powered by Green Industry Pros. Here's Sarah Webb.
Welcome back to The Turn. I'm Sarah Webb here with Darren Gruner. Of course, numbers aren't the only item that reflect a business. People are a huge key as well, especially in this industry where it's often a challenge to find and keep good employees. Jay Worth, marketing manager at Single Ops, weighed in on some of the ways that landscape professionals can make sure their bench is fully stacked year-round, and he also talked about why it's so important that landscape companies do this throughout the year.
You have to listen to your team when they're telling you things. If they tell you they have a problem, you have to try and fix that. Consistently problem solving for your team to eliminate roadblocks they're facing. Don't be a jerk about PTO. I know we work seasonally. People have lives outside of work. I would say a company that does this really well, and I think they've been written up in lots of publications in our industry, is a company called Blades of Green. They're in Maryland. One thing they do that's really incredible, in the off season, when their salespeople would normally be slow or not working really hardly at all, they flip and have them become recruiters. So all of the new hires that come in, applications that come in, they're incentivized to call those people, do the screening, put them in the pipeline, continue to follow up with them until spring starts to make sure they show up day one. They also do a thing called Blades of Green Bucks, and if you get caught doing something good or you just have an outstanding track record with the company, supervisors and owners can just hand out these bucks, and they actually have their own storefront set up on Amazon. People can buy things from camping gear if they're outdoorsy to you can actually buy PTO. And then their referral program was actually really spectacular as well. They had the person that referred the most people that got hired and stuck with the company over, like, let's say a 6-month period, got like an all expense paid vacation to the Caribbean or something just really extravagant. It was something really cool. But what it did is it made people want to refer their friends and family, the people that they trusted the most, to stick around.
He also talked about what retention efforts have worked well in his experience in the landscape industry.
I would just say first, your team is what drives your success. If you can't keep a consistent team, you're out of business. You'll hear sales consultants tell you all the time, try to upsell your existing customers because it's cheaper than going out and finding a new customer. These people already trust you. It's the same way with your employees. Please hear me when I say this. It is so much cheaper to keep the team you've got by just being thoughtful and being deliberate, and you'll build deep relationships. You'll feel more satisfied. They'll feel more satisfied. Keep the people you got by being a good person.
You're listening to The Turn here on Turf's Up Radio, powered by Green Industry Pros. I'm Sarah Webb here with Darren Gruner. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Turn on Turf's Up Radio, powered by Green Industry Pros. We'll be right back.
If you're a small business owner, you need banking that's truly built for your business. No more fees, no minimum balances, no more bookkeeping problems come tax season. Take control of your money with Relay, an online banking and money management platform that puts you in complete control of your cash flow. There are no account fees, no overdraft fees, and no minimum balances. You can also create up to 50 physical or virtual debit cards to keep track of spending. Make unlimited payments via ACH, wires, or checks. Provide secure, read-only access to your accountant or bookkeeper. Speed up bookkeeping by syncing directly into QuickBooks Online and Xero. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply. Visit relayfi.com/turfsup to start your application. That's relayfi.com/turfsup. Relay is a financial technology company, not an FDIC insured bank. Banking services and FDIC insurance provided through Evolve Bank and Trust and Thread Bank, members FDIC. The Relay Visa debit card is issued by Thread Bank pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated and may be used everywhere Visa debit cards are accepted.
You're listening to The Turn on Turf's Up Radio, powered by Green Industry Pros. Here's Sarah Webb.
Welcome back to The Turn. I'm Sarah Webb. Finally, it's key that landscape pros stay ahead of industry trends. For this topic, I asked Andrew Bray, Senior Vice President of Government Relations and Membership at the National Association of Landscape Professionals, about what regulations landscape pros should bear in mind come 2024. It's really going to be a busy year on the policy front for the landscape industry. First, he talked about trying to work on cap relief, and if you're wondering about how many H2B visas are available, here's what he had to say about that.
We are happy to say that we got an additional 64,716 visas for the government's fiscal year for 2024. And many of folks that filed for the first half cap in January during the lottery system should be happy to know that they're going to have access to an additional 20,000 plus visas that hopefully makes it a lot more likely that they're able to obtain their workers.
And if you're wondering about your chances of getting an H2B visa for your company,
the annual cap is 66,000, 33,000 for the first half, which is October 1 to March 30th, and the second half, like April 1 to September 30th. The April 1 start date is when everybody applies in January for those 33,000. That's predominantly where the landscape industry is trying to get their visas. Without supplemental visas, based on historical data, a landscape contractor would probably have somewhere between a 30 and 40% chance of getting H2B visas, which is a terrible percentage, right? With the supplemental visas, which gives you access to an additional, essentially 32,000 additional visas, we believe that will increase your chances to getting visas by somewhere between 65 and 75% chance. So a much higher percentage. Now, what I would say is if you're looking at this and in January you file and you get into your lottery, right? If you're in bin group A or B, you're probably in pretty good shape. But if you're in anything past that C, D, E, F, there was even a G last year, you need to start thinking about what you can do. And for those folks, that's when you need to think about applying for the supplemental visas as soon as possible and considering going into using workers from the Northern Triangle countries, which is El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, because you have a greater chance of getting your visas if you're willing to go there. The Biden administration has specifically carved out visas from those countries as part of their attempts to try to curtail chain migration by investing in those countries and having more money flow back into those countries when they legally come here and then legally return to their country.
Andrew also discussed some of the problems within the H2B program and how the industry can work to fix that.
Well, there's a piece of legislation that has not been introduced called the Seasonal Employment Protection Act, which would give tremendous certainty for all existing users of the program and would double the cap. This is legislation we fully support as an industry. There are some things in here that would make it harder to use the program. There are things in the bill that would make it, if you do something wrong in the program, you could be banned or permanently barred from the program. There's some other political components to the bill that makes it very hard to pass in its current form. That being said, the negotiations to get there was significant progress, and we are very optimistic that some things from this bill could finally move, maybe during the lame duck session next year. And when I say lame duck, whenever you get to the end of a 4-year term, if we get a new president, right, if somebody else is elected, if a new party is going to take over one of the House or Senate or whatever, you get what's called a lame duck, and it's where a lot of things can try to get packaged and thrown in there and kind of pass at the 11th hour. I say that this time next year will be an extremely busy time. I can promise you that. And so what we are going to be doing is poising ourselves to whether it's a complete permanent fix or something better than what we've gotten before. We're going to try to make sure we're getting something in there that gets access to more visas. And so what I would just tell folks listening to this, please, if you get an alert from me or from NALP or for somebody else to email your congressman or come to DC and do a fly-in with us, if the H2B program is important to you, those are the type of things we need you to be engaged and participate with us on.
Next, we asked his thoughts on the Farm Bill.
The Farm Bill is this massive, every 5-year omnibus sort of package that has all sorts of stuff in there related to the agriculture industry. And it is always the ripest vehicle to try to get some stuff in there with regards to the green industry and responsible pesticide use. We have been pushing to have some inclusion and some language that protects the ability to use pesticides and restricts localities or banning the ability to use pesticides on lawns. And that's what's happened in a few states that don't have these stronger state guardrails. So places like Maryland and Maine, we've seen onerous bans put in place where you can't use a pesticide on a lawn. That's something that's terrible for our industry and very short-sighted, understanding that our members are trained and certified applicators. The interesting thing about the Farm Bill is it was supposed to pass last year, but like everything from 2023, it got punted into 2024. And so the timeline is murky on how this is all going to come together, but we anticipate by the summer or into early fall of next year, this massive bill will be passing. And so we're going to be working very hard to make sure we get that language included in there, because this is kind of a once every 5-year cycle. We got close 5 years ago in 2018, but I think we're closer this year, and I remain optimistic that we can secure a victory there.
And here's what Andrew had to say about OSHA standards and regulations.
We know that OSHA is planning to put forward a national heat standard, specifically targeting outdoor and indoor work. So the outdoor standard would be different from the indoor standard. Our industry is definitely an industry that they're looking closely at. We fully support standards that make sense and that are not too prescriptive, because most of our members in our industry are doing everything right already. But we have been working with OSHA and the Department of Labor, and we actually had some of our members participate in these small business roundtables about the rule, where we we're allowed to give some feedback on what works for the industry and what doesn't work for the industry. All keeping in mind that we want to make sure all of our workers are remaining safe, but we want to avoid these things that get a little too prescriptive, because what works in Virginia is different than what's going to work in Arizona. What works in Arizona is going to be different than what works in Oregon, because it's different climates and different ways of doing business. And so we're going to keep an eye on that. We're expecting something on that front, probably late spring to early summer of this year. Is it likely be a timely release for this administration to get something out as we move into the summer month.
Andrew also mentioned that landscape professionals really need to be aware of the rules surrounding overtime pay.
Overtime increases does not pertain to a manual labor. People that are conducting manual labor are required to be paid time and a half once they reach the 40-hour threshold. So please, if you're listening to this, it's not going to change the vast majority of a lot of the folks that work in your company. Who it could impact is folks that are somewhere making between $35,000 and $50,000 and work more than 40 hours a week. It is called the white-collar exemption, and it means that certain types of workers with certain job requirements and certain job capabilities are exempt from being paid overtime. Meaning you don't have to pay somebody that your office manager that's conducting XYZ tasks as long as they work over 40 hours. The threshold, though, is if you make under $35,000, you have to be paid, regardless of what those job functions are. The Biden administration is proposing raising that threshold to around $50,000. So if you have somebody in your organization that you think might be working more than 40 hours, they're not a manual labor, and they're making somewhere between $35,000 and $50,000, you want to be able to start thinking about what it's going to look like. I anticipate whatever comes out of the Biden administration is going to go into litigation. That is what happened when President Obama tried to raise the threshold about 8 years ago. So I don't think anything's going to be finalized this year. I think a rule will be promulgated, and I think there will be litigation, but I think a smart landscape contractor should be thinking about this and how it could impact their organization.
And finally, here's what landscape pros should be on the lookout for when it comes to emissions regulations, particularly when it comes to the California Air Resources Board, otherwise known as CARB.
The California Air Resource Board, that we affectionately call CARB, they went through a process in 2020 where they basically said we are not going to allow the sale of any gas-powered landscape equipment beginning in the year January 2024. We worked closely with CARB. We were desperately asking for a reprieve from the commercial industry that relies on this industry. Their data support it, our data support it, extending the timeline for our continued ability to purchase this equipment to at least 2026 or beyond. But we were rebuffed. So we are here with this rule. A couple things that you should understand about this rule. First, if you live in California, and then if you live in other states. First, in California, this only prohibits the sale. So if you have gas-powered equipment, you can still use that equipment, okay? You can still maintain it. You can still get it fixed. You can use it as long as you want. You just can't purchase the equipment. Second, through the CARB Core program, there are some funds available to industries to try to get some funds for rebates and to recoup some of your costs as you purchase this equipment. That money has predominantly been drained this year, but we are going back to the California legislature to get those coffers refilled for 2024. The other thing that's important to know is that CARB in California technically don't have the ability to regulate emissions. That is something that is the exclusive purview of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. EPA preempts all other states and localities from regulating emissions. They made a carve out to allow California to do this, specifically because some of the ozone and climate issues they have in the Los Angeles area. But EPA must approve it, meaning they must give a waiver to California. That waiver has not been approved to date. It may get approved, but currently, if California moves forward with implementing this rule without an EPA waiver, they are in violation of the Clean Air Act. California has been in violation of the Clean Air Act before, so this is nothing too new. We do believe that EPA is eventually going to approve the waiver, but I think this is important if you're living in another state or locality where these things are being considered. Those states and localities technically don't have the legal authority to regulate emissions. And the simple fact is, if you're a car manufacturer, you're a equipment manufacturer, it would be impossible to come up with 50 to thousands of different standards on how you would have to manufacture your equipment, right? And so I just put that out there because we are not against transitioning the industry to cleaner and more efficient ways to doing things, but we would call that a responsible transition. And we think any time that there's just going to be a ban by a certain date without taking into account the technical feasibility and some of the funding issues, that's where we don't support it. So we're closely monitoring California, but we're also closely monitoring several other states and localities that are undertaking and considering these same sort of restrictions.
I'm Sarah Webb. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Turf's Up Radio, the only radio station of its kind dedicated to the green industry. Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
You're listening to The Turn on Turf's Up Radio, powered by Green Industry Pros. Here's Sarah Webb.
Welcome back to The Turn. So as you can see, Darren, Andrew really had a lot to say about some of the policies that landscape professionals should be aware of for the coming year.
Yeah, I was really blown away by NALP is really going to bat for us contractors, the guys that are out there in the field. There are so many cool opportunities with the NALP, more than I really ever thought of or I was aware of. So I want to remind our listeners that there's so many cool opportunities for you to get involved. They have weekly Friday emails for his members. These are all, you become a member and you get weekly Friday emails they call the Advocate. Andrew and his team put together stories on what they're working on and what's actually pertinent for that week. The updates are found in the Advocate, or if there's any links or to take action or save the date to come do a fly-in, to be part of what they're doing. You'll find all that stuff there on the Advocate. They also have work groups on H2B and lawn care. So that's pretty interesting. So, and if you want to be included with that, you can email Andrew at landscapeprofessionals.org. They have H2B monthly calls the first Thursday of every month, which is cool. And Andrew brings in processing agents to give you updates on the numbers and the likelihood of your chances of getting visas or not. So that you can be on those calls. You can find out exactly what's going on in real time. They're part of the House of Representatives. It's really interesting. And as these bills come in, it's pretty interesting. They also have a program called ACT, A-C-T. It's Advocacy Contact Team. And it's specific to your state, and they track every regulation and legislation that is introduced every day. They hold meetings on how to handle the bills as they come in and include all members. So if you're a member, you're included. You can be part of that, and it's pretty cool. Sarah, Andrew also emphasized that they want and need your engagement, right? He says that they work for you, and your involvement with them is very critical if you're out there in the field, right? Whatever they do, it's for you, so be involved. He also expects 2024 to be a bumpy year in the House of Representatives. He reminds us of the bitter divide in 2023, actually all the way back to 16 probably, right? So 2024 is not going to be any better, with in a presidential election year, expect it to be even bumpier. He encourages everybody to register to vote, be educated on the issues and what's important to you in your business. He wants you to be heard. So listening to him it just blew me away and got me all psyched and wanting to be a member of the NALP.
Absolutely. And it really will be cool to see how all of those issues pan out over 2024. I'm really excited to be able to report on the industry and, to continue to talk with landscape pros about how all of this affects their business. Yeah,
I'm excited. So many cool things happening. 2024 is going to be a great year. The market, as we stand right now, is up. So it's great. I mean, it dipped down right before the end of the year, and I was nervous. But that's something that we have to take stock in, no pun intended. But we have to think about, how is our economy doing, and because that's going to affect us, and which is really cool. And things happen right there at the law level, right at the House. So being part of the NALP and being what's going on is just so cool, just cool to me.
It's funny you mentioned that, Darren, because that's exactly a lot of what you just talked about is what our January, February State of the Industry report and Green Industry Pros touches on. We talk to landscape pros from around the country, and if you listen into the February episode of The Turn, that's exactly what we'll be talking about is some of the highlights from that report and, what landscape professionals expect for the coming year and beyond.
Perfect. That's cool. Hey, listen, download the podcast, the Turn podcast. Check out Turf's Up Radio. We always put the Turn on the front page of Turf's Up Radio. Do me a bigger favor. Check out Green Industry Pros. Learn more about these stories. You can go online. You don't have to, it's a good opportunity for you to sit and read it. I was telling people at Equip Expo, what do you do in the bathroom? They're laughing at me. Well, nothing. Well, here's a magazine. Read it. It's a good opportunity for you really to get in touch with what's going on in your industry. Don't just be a guy that's out there just moving along blindly. Learn about the industry. You know what's going to be better for you, for your clients to know that you know more about this, and you can give them that information when they require it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. For, just to reiterate, greenindustrypros.com is where you can find all of those stories and more. And, if you are interested in subscribing to the magazine, there's a link right on that page where you can do so.
Yeah, I have a copy. I have a copy in my bathroom. It's funny.
Oh, that's it for The Turn. Thanks again for joining us. This has been Sarah Webb and Darren Gruner. Until next time.
Take care, guys.
Let's get ready to profit!
Let's get ready to profit! everyone, and this is Adam Linneman here, the Green Executive, and I want you to stay tuned for Profit First for Landscapers, going to be live on Turfs Up Radio every Wednesday at 3 Eastern, 2 Central. If you can't make it live, you can download and listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, and more. We're going to be talking about how to make profit a habit, not just an event in your business. We're going to be talking about how to help landscape business owners take home a regular, consistent paycheck, and we're going to be talking about how to actually put real money, cash, in the bank. Tune in to all of our contractors that we're going to be having come on as our guests every Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about profit and how to make profit a habit, not an event in your business anymore. Let's get ready to profit.
Y'all ready for this?